you ever have that problem in school where everyone's picking teams and everyone's picked and you're the one that's left? Nobody wants you. Or everyone else is going out to have fun and you're left. Left home alone. Left out. Left behind. We don't normally want to be in that group, the ones left over. Yet if we listen to our scriptures today from the prophet Zephaniah, being the one left over is exactly where you want to be. Zephaniah uses this word remnant. I will leave in your place a remnant. What is he talking about? Well, you need to understand exile, the Babylonian exile. And if you don't have a clue what that is, you really need to catch up with Sean the Baptist Live from last week. I talked all about exile and why that is the most important thing we probably need to know, not just for Advent, but for most of the understanding of the Old Testament and the New Testament. The idea that Israel was God's chosen people. Under King David in about 1000 BC, they were settled in the Holy Land, and it was good. They had the land that God promised them. They had the temple that King Solomon built. It was perfect. Except it didn't stay that way because people turned their back on God. They worshiped pagan gods. They weren't engaging in right worship. And so what does God do? Well, he kicks them out of the land. He allows them to be exiled, and finally in 587 BC, the whole temple is destroyed and they are gone. They lose the land, they lose the temple, and they are in exile in Babylon. The prophet Zephaniah is writing about this today when he warns them that this will happen. If you don't worship God rightly, you will get exiled. The land won't protect you. You won't even have the temple. And it's exactly what happens. But the good news, and this is why we get this reading today as we get close to the coming of Jesus at Christmas, the good news is that there will be a remnant. A small but humble people turned back to God. Sometimes we ask ourselves, will many people be saved? Is it just automatic that people go to heaven? Because surely God's good, so everyone just goes to heaven? Not so much. In fact, the large group of people, the crowd, get marched right off to Babylon, never to return. But Zephaniah says, don't worry, there will be a remnant. I will leave a remnant behind, a people humble. In other words, if you turn back to God, if you want to worship God, then I'm going to let you come back from exile. There will be a little group that remains. And that's exactly what happens under Ezra and Nehemiah. The Babylonian exiles, some of them, a remnant, return to meet a remnant that's living on the land. And what did they do? They rebuild the temple. They start the worship of God over again correctly. They reinstitute the law. You really got to go listen to Sean the Baptist Live from last week. I talk all about it. This is important for our lives because I think we live, brothers and sisters, as if it's just automatic. If we just kind of go with the flow, we'll be all right, won't we? No, the flow is towards exile. The flow of society is away from God. Where do we want to be? We want to be in the remnant. We want to be in that little group that is left over, has learned their lesson, who now want to live holy and righteous before God, that our exile will humble us. So, are there ways in which we've kind of gone with the flow in our life? Where has that left us? Well, it leaves us in exile, far from God and without the right worship of the temple. So what do you need to do right now? You need to get used to living in the remnant. You need to return. You need to go against the flow. The flow is towards exile, towards Babylon in the east. You want to head back towards Jerusalem. You want to worship God rightly. You want to institute the law in your life, God's law. In short, what the prophet Zephaniah is saying is, you want to be in that remnant when the exiles go marching in. God bless you.